Well, welcome once again to Fork in the Road, where we talk to the leaders in sports, business and entertainment. And it's not very often that as a kid you get to have your idols on the show. And when I was a kid, I barracked for Collingwood, and this gentleman that we've got today in Mark Williams, I did actually start off with his number at the great Collingwood Football Club, but a little bit more about his history. Well, he's a part of the Port Adelaide, the famous Port Adelaide. His dad, Foss Williams, the godfather of the Port Adelaide Football Club, highly decorated. Then he came across to Melbourne, as we said, captained the Collingwood Football Club, then went back to Port Adelaide and led them to premiership glory. A very big welcome to Mark Williams. How you going, mate?
Well, it was a great introduction, Corey. I'm not sure if I believe you. Where's my Guernsey? Show me it.
Well, I did. I distinctly remember my cousin went into the rooms and he actually got you to sign. Remember those black and white Sharons that they were the early 80s? And I remember he came back with this prized possession of a black and white Collingwood football. Now, my uncles, they used to have a few cans at the footy, and after the footy one day, they decided they would turn into Bobby Davis and start kicking drop kicks in the back streets of Victoria Park, much to the tears of a young Collingwood supporter that had just been signed by Mark Williams. So I was pretty shattered at that point.
I reckon I've got one of those black and white footballs somewhere. I might send it to you.
No, but look, bring you to sit down, mate. But where did your football journey, obviously starting with your family at the Port Adelaide Football Club, what was it like growing up around such, you had your father and all that Port Adelaide success. What was it like actually growing up to be a part of the famous Port Adelaide fabric?
It's quite amazing. When you're there, it's just part of your life. Every day, Dad would come home talking about footy. Mum would be writing down the teams of the opposition Thursday night, so Dad would know who the opposition was before it came out in the paper. And so the whole family was involved. We had team meetings at our place where all the kids acted as servants, and Mum was cooking the dinner for them. Crazy things happened, but we would go down there every Sunday. We'd have kicks with all the players out in the oval. We'd go for a run with them, and quite often at halftime I'd go and listen to my dad do the halftime speech with the players, and I'd be the first person in there when Port generally won most weeks, and he'd be patting them on the bum, and I'd be doing the same thing as they came up the race. So I don't know, it became pretty natural that we just enjoyed the footy. And Port have won 37 premierships, and our family's been involved in 21 of them, which is unreal. And so success, we saw it as a natural thing that we wanted to achieve, and we worked really hard. Dad certainly, he paved the way as far as he come from the country. He went to war first. He didn't start footy until he was 24. Finished at 36, and achieved all those things in that time, and then become captain and coach of South Australia, beat Victoria at the MCG, one of the grandstands at Adelaide Oval's named after him. So, all of those recognition things is wonderful. And, everyone in Victoria knows Teddy Whitten is the, Mr. Football, and the Whitten medal is the best player for South Australia versus Victoria. The Foss Williams medal is the exact same thing in South Australia. So it gives you an insight as to where he's held. And I'm very proud of what he achieved, and certainly thankful of the opportunity he gave me and my brothers in regard to footy.
Yeah, and just touching on that, when you look back at it now, just the lasting effects that he had on you, not only from a football point of view, but even your values in life and how you go about it. All the family ended up, all the brothers ended up playing for Port Adelaide. I think even your sister, she actually worked at Port Adelaide. So just those habits, and it's even great hearing those stories about, coming home, doing team selection, just the lasting, impression that's actually had on you in your life.
Yeah, it's interesting, and again we talk about inclusion, but our mum was so important to us in in our development. She took us to all our junior footy. Dad wasn't involved. He was always involved with the senior teams and too busy really for us. He would be. We were lucky enough to have a tennis court where we grew up, and so we would have kicks with him on the opposite days when he was at home after work. But Mum took us everywhere, and then our sister Jenny, she probably having 4 kids, it was always 2 on 2, so she had to be on one of the players' sides. And she made the South Australian football team early days. They played a game against Victoria where they'd beaten them, and they were forerunners. She was a phys ed teacher. She played for Australia in lacrosse. They won a World Series. She was captain and then coach. And then she also played 5 other. She played touch football, soccer, and also cricket for Australia. So she's more famous than all of us in regard to her sporting career. And after all that, she always wanted to be involved and always a little bit envious of the boys and the recognition. Obviously, we, playing footy, we were getting paid, and so she was paying for flights and equipment and all that stuff, and. So she wanted to get involved. She went back and got a master's degree in psychology. So that was the reason when she finally got a master's. I employed her as in leadership with Jan Sterling, who was head of basketball, coached the Opals to, I think, a silver medal at the Olympics. So those two took up the leadership, and I'm very proud to say I think in the scheme of things, having those two as women in a football world was pretty unique and certainly trailblazing to give them the responsibility to lead the psychology and leadership in an AFL club.
Yeah, they were. Now, from the outsiders, it was interesting. I don't know whether you remember. It would have been way back when. I think it might have been just as Port Power came into the competition, and I think North Melbourne actually played a pre-season practice match where we were. And I say lucky enough because I'd heard so much about Alberton and going to the home of the Port Adelaide Football Club. Everyone knows a little bit more about the history now, but just tell people what makes the Port Adelaide Football Club so special from the outside. Because like I said, I was pretty lucky to go down there, and it is like going to a little bit like Victoria Park and Collingwood, those traditional Melbourne grounds. But just give people a bit of an insight why it is so special.
Well, for a start, because they were so successful, everyone hates them. And so there was 9 other teams in Adelaide, and they all hated Port Adelaide. When the Crows finally got together, they grabbed the other 9 clubs. So it was 9 clubs against Port Adelaide. And traditionally, you'd have to drive out of the city a little bit. You'd have to go past the cemetery down there, and basically everyone lost all hope after they went past the cemetery, everyone thought. And the fanatical support, there was always 10 or 12,000 people in a small suburban oval, so it always felt really full. And on big days, there was 25,000 people there, and you just couldn't get a seat or stand anywhere. There was the working class people, so their whole week was evolved around the football club, the success of the football club, and getting together with their mates. So they were pretty fanatical. I come from outside the area, so I could always walk away from the supporters a little bit, but they had great expectations, and basically they didn't accept when you lost. It was all about winning, and so they probably pushed us on a lot. We were lucky, Dad coached for a long time and won, but then the guy that took over was John Cale, who was Dad's captain, and people might know Darren Cale, who coaches Simona Halep and coached Andre Agassi and Leighton Hewitt to #1 in the world as well. A fantastic friend of mine, and John Cale was a wonderful coach. Won I think 10 premierships. And went over to coach Collingwood as well. So there was a great tradition that, to be able to set up and then continue on. And, we had so many wonderful players, and, people would remember some, but certainly Nathan Buckley started there, and so did Gavin Wanganeen and Craig Bradley, and some wonderful players. That Greg Phillips just the other day was Hall of Fame of the AFL. You have to be at the right time in the right place, but that's certainly what it seemed to be. And luckily, I got to play in the 70s, a grand final and win, in the 80s, in the 90s, and then with the premiership in the Power. So it was a amazing run of decades of winning.
It was, and look, very similar the way you talk about Port Adelaide, and then you go over to Collingwood. Collingwood have just lost the 79 grand final, and they've just been pantsed in the 1980 grand final. How heavy was that weight of expectation at that time with Collingwood? Because as a Collingwood fan, obviously there was talk of the Collywobbles and everything like that. But did you feel that coming in from Port Adelaide, or was it? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting, probably before I answer that, the other thing that has to be always highlighted was the trainers, the supporters, the people behind the scenes, the amazing amount of work that they would do basically for nothing, just so that they could get a shirt with a with a sign on it that said that they belong to the club. And when I got to Collingwood, it was the same thing. So many people have been there for so long. The trainers, the masseurs, all the different people around the place. The old might have been the doctor or whatever, and they're the lifeblood, and you really have a close relationship with them as much as with the players. And when I got to Collingwood, I came there with a real open mind that who cares what's happened in the past. I'd come, and Michael Taylor had come, Mark Wiedemann had come, so there was a few new players there. So we were pretty hopeful that we could get past this. Without any doubt, it was a fantastic first year. We made the finals again, and then the grand final. Unfortunately, we lost to Fitzroy in the last game of the year at Victoria Park, which took us from top to second, which we then needed to play more games than we probably had to if we'd have won that last game. And the long season, it turned out to be the wettest season in Victoria for the last 30 years. So every training night, the ground was really muddy, and back in those days it was really muddy, a lot of the grounds. So maybe the effect of the extra game might have weighed on us, but I don't know. Going through the finals, it looked like we might have been out early. We got a pretty miraculous win against Fitzroy at the MCG late in the final, and then went to play Geelong at Waverley, and it was the famous game where one of their players had missed the bus, and who misses a bus? So they get out to Waverley and they think he must have drove there, and then he wasn't there. So anyway, we got through to the grand finals. 112,000 people there were playing Carlton. We'd played them twice during the year. We'd beaten them twice during the year. Always competitive games. And, we're up at three-quarter time. So amazing. I absolutely loved the game. It was everything that I'd dreamt of as a young kid. My dad and brother and my uncle, we would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. We'd drive all the way from Adelaide, watch the under-19s, watch the seconds, watch all the AFL grand finals, go and have a kick on the Oval afterwards, and then get in the car and drive back that same day. It was like amazing how the commitment to watching the absolute best. But for me, it was always I wonder if I could play, and then wonder if I was good enough, and then climbing the ladder and having the drive to see how far I could go. And all of a sudden, I was there playing on the MCG in a grand final in front at three-quarter time, and unfortunately, again, we really trained hard on a Thursday night. I thought it maybe took a little bit out of our legs, but because it was so muddy, it was a wet game again, and we just got run over in the last quarter. Peter Moore got injured, did his hammy. I don't know. There's always stories to tell. No one really cares, and the fact is, Carlton won and we didn't.
Yeah, and getting beaten by the arch rival would never be good. But there was just one backtrack with that. There wasn't talk of at three-quarter time at all. There wasn't a bit of angst at three-quarter time at all from memory?
I don't know. I honestly, I can't remember. What have you heard? Maybe tell me, and that might...
Mind you, I can't remember it happened last week, Choco, but I did remember hearing that either something happened with one of the officials or something like that might have had a go at one of the players at three-quarter time. But I think more than likely, like you said, it sounded like the heavy run and the extra week may have helped out Carlton more.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of anxiety amongst, the guys that had been there before. I remember talking to Renee Kink afterwards, and, he played in 5 losing grand finals. He should be one of the all-time, but right. Because he didn't actually win, but people take that away. But... maybe it was someone's attack on the ball, actually, when you're talking about it. No, I obviously don't want to name him, but he knows and I know. He knows and I know.
Now, how did you go? You've gone from Port Adelaide and then you go to the great Collingwood Football Club. What was it like trying to start up virtually from scratch, going to the then Brisbane Bears, when you've come from great organisations like that are already set up and they've already got, pretty much culture dripping from the rafters?
Let's be fair and let's be understanding, though. Collingwood, in the 6 years I was there, we had 5 coaches. Come on, mate. When we talk about great culture, and going, that's not great culture. There's a lot of history around the place, but it wasn't set up as well as it is now. And I say to Eddie, he's done a wonderful job trying to get it all together, because it's not an easy club to be so big with so many egos. And so we had 5 coaches. We had about 3. Presidents and about 4 general managers of football in that time. It was very much up and down. The last year I was there, I remember Mike Richardson, Jeff Rains, they just signed a new contract. I'm saying 2 weeks before the end of the year they'd signed, and then the club brings me in and says, listen, we need to tell everyone, and you need to be in there, and I need to be saying I understand it as captain of the club. And what a great honour to become captain of the club. Won a couple of best and fairest there, all of those things. So I tick a lot of boxes that I go, yeah, all that's good, but I am a player's captain, and I just can't stand things that are not right. And you imagine if you've negotiated for the last 2 or 3 months to get a new contract, and then someone walks in and says, oh, you need to take 20% pay cut across the board, you're going, you're kidding. And, people then put it on Jeff Rains and Mike Richardson for leaving. But, the truth is the club weren't, honest with them. Surely they would have known, when they were negotiating, that this was going to happen. And, to think that we lost 20% of our pay because of, the mismanagement of the board, it was pretty disappointing. But, that's how it is. And I remember Alan McAllister at the time saying that, when they make profits, they'd give it back. Now, I've been calculating this since that time. Now, that was 1986. Now, we're talking compound interest. If you understand compound interest, from that time, the 20%, they probably owe me a couple of million. So I'm looking forward to it. It might be a nice little superannuation payment. I know that Eddie will come true. From all the boys are still waiting for it, Eddie.
I'm sure Ed's got that in his centre console, so there's no dramas with that at all. I'm sure he'll be able to fix that up. But where did the passion come? The playing days had ended. Was it something when you were still playing football that you thought, I might go into coaching, or where did that...
No. You asked me about Brisbane. I need to talk to you about that. So At that time, it was Lee came in and said, "Look, I want you to, sign your contract in a very short period of time." It was by November. It was before Melbourne Cup Day, he said. And I said, "Listen, mate, I've been here for 6 years. I've played almost every game, and I'm trying to negotiate it." And anyway, he said, "Well, if you don't accept the contract, we'll withdraw it." I said, "Well, good luck to you." And that's what he did. So he probably called my bluff. Brisbane came around, so the opportunity to go to something new. And if you think about, all the different things I'd done, apart from winning the premiership, I kind of ticked the box. So I felt like the opportunity to go somewhere new was just wonderful. And to go to Brisbane, start something new for the AFL, be a trailblazer, yeah, I like the idea of it. We won the first 2 games. We beat North under lights, which was huge, and then we went to Geelong at Geelong and beat them, which, you consider now. And then we had to play St Kilda. So they stitched us up a bit. We had to play 3 games in a row away. But we won 6, 7 and 8 games in the first 3 years. And in the end, for me, trying to bring culture, trying to bring care to the young players. There was a whole lot of people from everywhere, all the wives and everything. Try to get people together, and as a forerunner for my coaching in the future was probably important. Peter Knights was there, lovely bloke, but he never coached one day. The Sellers, Mark, what's his name? What is his name? He used to be captain of Carlton. Mark McClure. Sorry, Mark McClure. Yeah, Sellers. He was there. He'd never coached before. So we had very inexperienced players there, or lots of them, and to have inexperienced coaches who were trying to learn on the play. All of those things don't make sense. And, the AFL, finally learned when the Giants were around to get Sheeds and me there, because we knew what was going on. So we could help people step through it quite quickly. But, the proudest thing was for me to think even now that the Bears are still going. And the fact is that they become a powerhouse club because we took the chance to go up there and set it up. So, it didn't become a rabble. It didn't fall apart. It actually ended up being something pretty significant and really significant in the AFL and making the national competition what it is today. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, and it's certainly turned into a powerhouse. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, so where did that next step come into going, okay, I want to be a senior coach? Where did that resonate with you? Was it still when you were playing, or was it just a decision made after you were playing?
Well, I'm a teacher by trade, so I taught phys ed. So, the step between teaching and coaching are very close. And, Clarko's a teacher, and, there are quite a few that were that way. And it makes it so much easier because that's what you've learned to do. That there's a whole lot of different people. You have to try and pull the strings and find something that motivates that particular person to get them to play the best they can. And then how do they work as a group? Excuse me. So I really didn't think too much of coaching. Obviously, I'd seen it every day when I was a kid. Phys ed, I kind of learnt the method of it all. And then the idea of when I'd finished playing, in the last game that I played was a premiership at Port Adelaide, to be able to coach straight away afterwards. I coached at Glenelg, and then Sheeds gave me the opportunity. I got to coach at Essendon in the twos. I coached, Lloyd when he was 16 and 17. That's Lloyd and Lucas. I saw great young players with fantastic talent that didn't touch the ball some days. And, all of these things are little things that go into your mind. That was the time where we tried to recruit you to Port Adelaide, and had you at our house trying to get you over there. So after 2 years at Essendon, I got the opportunity to be assistant coach to John Cale on a 5-year contract, which, Essendon couldn't match. So I went back to Port Adelaide and, helped John Cale for a couple of years and then took over.
This episode is brought to you by National Make Good Solutions, experts in taking your commercial property back to the day it was built at the end of your lease. where do you, like, obviously you have got that teaching background, but where do you find, and you are a very passionate person as well, how do you get that blend together? You get your message that there's sometimes I think there's the time for fire and brimstone, but then how do you know to get that balance that when you're actually coaching a football team?
Yeah, well, I'd come out sometimes when I was at Essendon and come and watch you guys train, actually. And Dennis, I remember, I was so impressed with some of the ways Dennis trained you guys. And, obviously he was a different cat. He was up this end of, fire and brimstone and all that stuff. He had some wonderful ways with words. And, I used to laugh at him. But I always, in the scheme of things, I love learning from people. And I don't care if it's people, if it's online, if it's new technology, I'm in. And I want to pick ideas that might make the collective of me better so that I can help other people in a different way. So when I was there at Essendon, I also learned from David Wheaton. Now, David, he was almost like the professor when it comes to statistical analysis. And so when I got to Port Adelaide, I had a little bit of, my dad, a little bit of Peter Knights, a little bit of John Cale, a little bit of all the great coaches, Lee Matthews, Bobby Rose, Tommy Hafey. So you put all those people together and you go, wow, that's a collective little bits of genius from a lot of them. Some things, I don't like that, throw it away. Or some that, that is terrible. I will never do that. So, you learn all those different things. But the scientific stuff from David Wheaton was important to understand the opposition. I remember when I was up on the Gold Coast, I was surfing with Phil Walsh, and he and I were mates. We come from Collingwood. We've been up, played there. Our wives are mates. Our kids are mates. And so when we were surfing, I said, look, if I ever get a coaching job, I'll have you as a coach. Now, Phil had been a fitness coach. He'd never been a coach at all, but he's a very, very smart guy. And so when I got to Port, I got him, and he was basically in charge of all the statistical and video analysis, and we really could analyse the opposition better than anyone else. And we had the software, that sports code stuff, way before anyone else. So we kind of knew what the patterns were the opposition were doing, and it really helped us. And because of the teaching background, I could try to, get the whole can of information from Phil and make it into a small category that the players could be able to consume, and away we go type thing. And, so a bit of yin and yang, and a bit of grab this bit and love that, don't want this, and try and mix it together so it makes it perfect for the players to be able to comprehend, and away we went. So, every year was different. Every year, I understand motivation. I understand you can't do the same things. I want to find different training drills. I want to see what happens in the game and make a drill that helps you in particular, Corey McKernan, because I know that as much as it's about team, it's about you enjoying your game. It's about you loving to come to training. And it's, we talk workplace, it's the same bloody thing. You have to enjoy to come to work. And if you don't, leave. It's the fact is, you have to be motivated. You have to be interested. You have to know where you're at and what else you can do to improve. And as long as people are holding those little carrots in front of you, it's an interesting day every day you get up.
Just something totally random, Choco, because I love your passion and the way you go about it. What are some of the things at the moment for all the people out there that are watching this that are going through the second lockdown? What would your advice be about how they can not only survive this, but how they can thrive? Because I know that, as you said, you're always looking for finding ways to get better. But I know that knowing your mentality and what you've just said, how are you approaching it, and what's the advice for people out there?
Well, honestly, one day in the first one, I was just sitting around thinking, I understand my young players, and I coach at Werribee now, and I was worried about them because you need to have that light at the end of the tunnel. You need to know, there is something there that your purpose.
Yeah.
So I decided, I rang up someone from the Herald Sun, and they said, oh, no, we can't afford this now. And I said, mate, I'll do this for free. So I sat down and penned myself, wrote 100%, this is my article, gave it to them, and they posted a whole page on this is me giving people some hope and me giving them some direction, understanding young people now and what they need. So I wrote a whole page, and we'll post it in here so you can people can see exactly what we're talking about afterwards. But in that, I talked about connection was so important. You needed to find your friends. You need to go out of your way. You've got a bloody phone, but the fact of the matter is, how many times have you rang all the people in there? So maybe you just go through 3 or 4 each day and catch up with people that you haven't caught up for a while. That's a nice thing. Even better, let's do it visually like we're doing now.
Yeah.
You know, if we're talking on the bloody phone, Corey, I've had enough by now. I want to see, because I can see you, I can see how you're looking, I can get an emotion from you when I say something. It actually, we're now connecting a lot better. And the face-to-face thing, obviously, we're missing, so let's connect via phone. It's better. But then it's like, don't limit yourself to what you've done in the past. So we know fitness is important. Let's go on, start a new thing. Maybe it's yoga. Now, who would think that I could do yoga? Yes, I can. You know what it's really called? It's called quiet stretching. And, you know, and it's great for you. Well, why not? Let's do that. Why can't we learn something new? Let's go on the internet and find something and learn how to use this computer differently, or learn. It could be a language. Write a song. Come up with something that might invent something. And as I told you before, I invented this football. Who would think that I invented this Sharon Precision for the reason that I'm trying to teach people how to kick better. So I thought my son-in-law, if you like, close to, 8 years together, my daughter and him, is Dylan Shield. So Dylan and I said, Dylan, let's go down to the local oval and we'll do what you can do when you're home by yourself with one other person as to kicking. So we did a whole lot of articles, and if people want to look Mark Williams champion teams on YouTube, they're all free, and I give them to you because it's about paying forward. So I thought, well, I do leadership stuff, and I do Mark Williams champion teams if anyone's ever interested in contacting me. But I've worked with some wonderful organisations, and we talk about paying it forward. So I say, well, I did 40 free things for people like what I'm doing for you right now. And it's, why not? I've known you for a long time. You've always been nice to me. I'm giving something else. And to give away something, and so tidy up all your room and find some stuff and give it away because people might need it. Yes, I can do that. So giving little examples to people of things to do. So my players, it would be, okay, let's have a little project. In number order, you have to come up with a 3-minute YouTube clip that is a funny one, that share it for everyone. Yes, we could do that. Form a WhatsApp group with friends. Yes, we could do that. Come up with, so our nutritionist, a great guy, Byron, he comes up and says, we're doing a 30-day challenge, and he gives the players a different meal every week, every day to do. And it's just unbelievable. I have to connect my coaches with their lines. They need to once a week. So there's so many things to do. But the number one thing, quietly now, and I know I'm getting excited, you have to wake up every morning with a purpose. So when you go to bed, what do I want to do tomorrow? It might be 3 or 4 things, but wake up with a purpose. It might be, I need to clean the gutters. I don't care. That's good. Tick it off. Tick it off. Tick off some things. And so you feel like you've achieved things for the day. It's much, much better for your heart and for your head. So the other things, and I did recently riding my bike around and doing quite a few Ks around, I was thinking about purpose, and I wrote this thing, and you might see it on LinkedIn for me, but I'll send you that as well. But I wrote down purpose, and then I wrote down all the P words that would worked for me as far as purpose was. And, it might be play the piano. It might be, pastor is really important to me. It might be play is important. It might be pets are important. All of these things that, they're the things that matter to me. Under you for purpose, unique, it might be unique, or, things that unite people, things that, what are really important in this day to do with purpose. And anyway, I went through those, and I'll include those as well. But it's me giving it to you, and it's me thinking about my teammates, my players, and my family. These are the things that I'm offering you, my thoughts, and it might help one person, one little minute, and that's great, because we're all struggling a bit. We're all struggling.
No, it's just I tell you what, that little excerpt, I know that even I could get up in the morning, Choco, and it's nearly like a mini 3/4 time address that is. It's very inspirational. I know a lot of people will get a lot out of that. But look, the other thing that I did want to ask you is, are we doing enough to support coaches? Because it seems like we're very, very quick to put, I'd say you, even though you're not a coach anymore, I know you're coaching Werribee, but I mean in the AFL system, are we doing enough to support the coaches that are in the system? And I mean, when they're coaching at the time and when they come out of the system?
Well, it's interesting, and if you have a look at how many people have been a premiership coach and not coached afterwards, I think I put my hand up and say I'm the only one. And so I'm saying to you, whatever you're saying, and it's not me, well, it is me. The doubts of, wait a minute, what happened? What happens next? And as much as I'm up and about, I have those dark moments as well. There's no doubt that, always searching for something, but you keep knocking on the door and you can't get in, and you go, well, what's going on? So having understood that myself, I agree with what you're saying now, that there has to be opportunities. And, online now I search for opportunities, and I've developed this thing called the Kick Doctor. So I look for opportunities to help any coach around Australia, any kid around Australia, via Zoom, and come and spend an hour with me, and we will talk. I've got video, I've got whatever to help you be a better coach or a better player. Wow, that sounds pretty impressive, but it just doesn't happen enough. And, I'm going, I need the AFL to, highlight this to people. It's hard to, get people to understand. I have great expertise, and in the scheme of things, I am a better coach, I promise you now, a better coach than I've ever been. I understand people better now, certainly through my sister, working with her psychology and the psychology of people. I understand a lot more about different levels of players and how to get the best out of them. Having been a development coach at Richmond, where 12 of the development players become premiership players, Jason Castagna, Dan Butler, these sort of players, Ivan Soldo, I remember teaching Ivan how to kick. He was a basketballer, never kicked before. And he becomes a premiership player, and I'm so proud that I've had a lot to do with their development. But I actually saw how insecure they were, how they couldn't find their space in the team, where they fitted in, and to understand that, to know how to bring those sort of players, as well as work with Dusty every week to become a Brownlow medalist and what he's become now, and the man he's become off the field as well. I'm so proud. So I understand your question. There is definitely a need to look after people, and certainly coaches that leave the system, and understand they've still got expertise, and to actually utilise those expertise to help the others develop and make it easier for them on their way.
Now, I'll rattle off 3 names, Choco. I know you know your world sport, but Bruce Arians, Bill Belichick, and Pete Carroll are all 68 and 69 years old. Why is it? And everyone can see out there how great this man speaks. why is it you think that you're only 58 years old? And why is it that we are so very quick in the AFL to write off experience? At the start, we want to use it, we want to say, we want them to get experience. Now when you've got it, it just seems crazy that we've got in other teams around the world, like Sir Alex Ferguson coached until he was 70 years old. So What is it with the AFL that we are so quick to write off? As you said, you feel like you're at the top of your game in terms of what you know and your knowledge. So why do you think that it's just a crazy situation that we write off this experience, especially someone like yourself?
Yes, it's all of those things, ring true to me. I see those great coaches around the world, and the thing is, being a teacher, I've kind of ticked all those boxes that people say, well, they went to Harvard. I've been to Liverpool. I've been to the Jets. I've been to Bayern Munich. I've travelled the world to see the absolute best, and I continually want to know what the absolute best are doing. There's no doubt there's ageism involved. They feel like you go past it. Even last year, at Werribee, we had 5 players in the team of the year. We had the guy that won the Brownlow, if you like, the Liston Trophy. We had the guy that won the Rising Star, and the guy got drafted, and we won finals. And we're a highly competitive side first year, and I just absolutely loved it. And I go, well, come to Werribee, boys, because you'll get some great coaching. And can I do it? Yes, I can. Could I do it? Yes, I can. Is there any chance of that happening? No chance in the world. But I've even applied for so many assistant coaches jobs at your old club. I rang up Reece Shaw and said, mate, I'll come and help you. I will have you back, and I'll give you a shortcut to success, because the L plates, doesn't matter what you've done before, the L plates are still on you. And, so because I am like I am, some people get intimidated. They think I'm going to take over. But the fact of the matter is I care for so much, and I appreciate the opportunity. And, at Richmond, when Dimmer gave me the opportunity, having coached him at Essendon in the seconds, take him to Port Adelaide as a premiership player, and then entrust me to come. And the 4 years at Richmond I was there, I absolutely loved it, and we had wonderful success, except for winning the finals, but they won straight after. But the 4 years of that development with those young players was outstanding. And to understand that I'll support anyone and anyone's system just to make sure that they'll certainly get a different point of view. I won't run with the stream the whole time. I'll say, wait a minute, have you thought about this? What about that? And that's the confronting thing sometimes, because if everyone just does the same as everyone else, you're probably going to end up average. And if you talk Malcolm Gladwell, if you're one of the great minds around the world now, being an outlier, there's no doubt that's what I am.
Yeah. Now, you did touch on the great Richmond Football Club, but one man in particular, and you did mention him in passing before, you did form a very close relationship with Dustin Martin. What was it like working with Dusty and taking him from this raw product that he was? But as you mentioned, how much satisfaction just to see him grow as a player and as a person, and just give us an insight. What was it like being a part of the Dusty show?
Yeah, well, the first time, honestly, I wouldn't have I interviewed Dustin at Port Adelaide as a draftee, but I had no idea who he was. I got to Richmond and they said, look, this guy's a pretty good player, but he's off the rails. Dimmer, in his wisdom, said, listen, you look after him. Now, you have to understand, and it is a bit confronting as well. Most people don't know, but I don't drink, and I never have drank, ever. I don't smoke. And you think of Dustin and me, we're probably one's right up this end and the other one's right up that end, and who would possibly put them together? So having 5 kids, though, and, some almost Dusty's exact age and all that stuff, it it was interesting. So we formed come over to my place, come to dinner. So he come to dinner every week for 4 years. And, he would, and we would play games with my kids. So we'd play pool, or we'd play darts, or we'd play table tennis, or we might have a putting contest, or we might play quoits. Now, apparently you're very big at quoits at North Melbourne. So some people told me that someone was a very good quoits player there. But all of these stupid little games where he was just part of the family. Sit down at the table. I had a young daughter who was probably 8 or 9 at the time. And, Dustin, completely respectful. And, one of my kids had to do an assignment for school. So we did let's use Dustin. And we got Dustin to go to the school and talk about his journey. And when the headmaster at Caulfield Grammar rings me and says, listen, we're a bit concerned he might swear in front of the kids. I said, no, he'll be right. After his presentation, the headmaster rang me back and said, that was so great. We'll have him here every year if he's available. And that was the first time that Dustin had spoke publicly. He was a bit nervous, and I helped him with some slides and shit. And it was a great development. So then I would take him to different places. We went to Dandenong Stingrays, and he talked to the players there, again, with some photos, with some things that he does. And he was just projecting and getting out just so he could learn that he could do more things than just kick the football around. And, now I see him doing ads on TV for, lots of money. And I'm thinking, Dustin, I know Ralph Carr's your manager, but who was the person that actually taught you how to do this stuff? Anyway, so we still talk. We still text each other. We don't see each other as much now, but he's always and the wonderful thing, last grand final day, I was out on the Oval, and it was a kind of a funny day for me because GWS were there, and all the GWS players that I'd started with were there, and they were so disappointed. But all the Richmond players that I'd been with were there, and I got to present Dimmer with the Jock McHale trophy. But I took a wonderful photo with Dustin. He's got the 2 medals around his neck, and I was so proud of him and so proud of how far he's became now. And, he was marginalised there for a while. There's front page of the papers talking about his off-field stuff. And now every person loves him. And, he would be the number one person that who do you talk about a player in AFL? If you listed it right now, it would be Dustin Martin. And, I think the best story I can tell you, though, is New Year's Day last year, I get a phone call from New Zealand, and it's from his dad, Shane, saying, thank you for what I've done for Dustin. And this is, Shane loves his son, and he understands how me, but also my family, and I'm saying that my kids and my wife have played just as an important role because he feels like he can come and just lay on the couch or lay on the carpet watching TV and just chill and feel just a normal kid around us. So that's great.
That would be
great. And again, when you talk about business, if you want to get the best out of your people, you need to actually build trust. You need to show you care. And if you do that, you can actually have some pretty straight conversations with people because they can always fall back to that solid foundation that you've already laid. But if you do it in the other order, it won't work.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned, just quickly, we haven't got too long to go, how proud, I know Dennis Pagan did it with Adam Simpson, and you've done the same thing with Dimmer. How cool is it that one of your own players that you get to present the premiership medallion on grand final day at the MCG? It must be mind-blowing.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, I remember Dimmer, playing in the twos, as I said, and doubting himself and trying to find a way. Daniele's wife, they were just going out. So I've known them since they were, boy and girl as far as romantic crush, if you like. And now they've got 3 wonderful kids. And, Dimmer would always look at another person, and Alistair Clarkson first coached with me at Port Adelaide before he went to Hawthorn. So you think of Alistair, and Dimmer and Alistair are very close, and their families, and Dimmer would always look at Alistair and say, how come he has been successful and I haven't, type thing, and maybe I never will. And to get those getting closer and closer together now, it's kind of an amazing thing. And, from our Port Adelaide day, I get so proud because Stuart Dew is now going. Matthew Primus, he coached. Jared Schofield won 3 or 4 premierships in Western Australia, and Josh Carr won in South Australia. And, I just love the idea that we created an environment where people could see how you coach and how you teach people, and away they go and they believe in themselves. And then Phil Walsh was going to be a great coach. Dean Bailey coached with me. We've had a great development ground where people actually can see and believe and listen and take from and make it their own, and away they go. So, very proud that being able to give people the opportunity and show them the way and where they've got to, and there's plenty still to come.
Yeah, there are. Now, my last question, and it's the very much the title of this whole series, what we do, it's called Fork in the Road. Now, what would be Mark Williams' fork in the road moment where life could have gone either way, and you've had that real fork in the road moment? Who knows? It still might be to come, Choco. But where has the fork in the road moment been for you?
Well, there's a couple. Firstly, the number one thing was up here at the MCG in '77. I'm at the Drawn Grand Final with watching Collingwood and North, and I'm with Hawthorn Football Club in '77, and I'm about to sign with Hawthorn. Now, I become the first ever South Australian to play 200 games. And as a 17-year-old, I'm sitting in the grandstand with Hawthorn, and no one came over at that age back then. So I actually didn't go, and the fork in the road is straight after that, they won 5-day and 5-night grand finals. And I won 0. Sliding door moments, that was certainly one. And I've often talked about that. Yeah. Anyway, I've loved my the path that I've taken, and you make what you can out of your decisions, and you go with it. So that was a great fork in the moment thing. The other thing, again, and it does become quite personal, but in 1988, I got a phone call from my mum when I'm up in Brisbane playing for the Bears, that my twin brother had died, and he walked into his house that was getting renovated, and the roof fell on top of him and killed him. So honestly, it broke my heart, and that changed for me. I basically gave up football after that. I wanted to go back and play with my younger brother at Port Adelaide. So I played the last 45 games at Brisbane and said, no, that's enough. I'm going. So I went back to Adelaide. I played a couple of seasons and then started coaching. So I suppose that was certainly a big turning moment, and something that I hold close to my heart every day, and I miss him every day. And to have a twin brother, I became the footballer I became because of him. Because we had competition every minute of every day because it was him versus me, and I was so lucky to have him around.
No, absolutely brilliant story. And look, Choco, it's been amazing to sit down with you for this long. And look, as you know, we've had that ongoing joke over the journey about I was a lifelong Collingwood supporter before I went to the Kangaroos. I did wear number 21, and then once you left, I then went on to Darren Mullane. So after I had 2 pretty good players that I idolised at the Collingwood Football Club. But as you mentioned, look, we've had our and you actually only touched on that a little bit before, that we did actually have a meeting about me potentially coming to Port Adelaide, which I was a bit nervous about going into it. Can you imagine if Dennis Pagan had found out I had to come and had a meeting with you? I can only begin to imagine, Choco, what would happen.
Well, you said you didn't have a contract, but when we found out you did, that was like, come on, mate, we're wasting our time. But there was no doubt, and, I don't get to speak to a Brownlow medalist very often, but remember, that's how good you were, Corey. And to think that you got reported, what a joke. You see some of the things that happen these days, it's an embarrassment, and they should actually hand it to you. And retrospectively, we could have a big night on the raspberries.
On the raspberry, I was going to, because I forget about that you don't drink. But yes, I'll be the first one to shout you a raspberry, and if it does happen, I'll let you do the introduction. But on behalf of everyone out there, and I know that the little piece of advice that you gave to everyone about how to approach your current situation, I think was just absolutely ripping advice. Just before we leave, where can they find you, Choco, if they want to find out more information?
Just look up Mark Williams at championteams.com.au, or just look up Champion Teams and it'll come up Mark Williams. I'm there to work on anything to do with leadership, mentoring anyone, working, one-on-one with groups of people or individually. But then if there's anything to do with any of your kids in regard to footy, via Zoom right now, it's unbelievable. I've got people in Western Australia, South Australia and Sydney right now that I'm working, and in Victoria right now I'm working on watching their games, watching their videos of their skills, and then taking them through drills and things that they need to do. Also, yesterday I had a group of two where they had their iPad and I was watching them and I was giving them what they had to do and telling them. It was just brilliant. And the things you can do if you just keep working and looking to find a way, and there's nothing that can stop you. And that's the thing, that's my message to you. Your best days are ahead. Look forward, not backwards.
100%, and I can't think of any better way to wrap it up, but a big thank you to Mark Williams. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks, mate.
Good man. Good luck.